This and hello everybody, this is Barbara Drazga, the Deal Diva, and I am here today with Karen and Neil Gwartzmann of Private Label University, and we are going to talk about private label secrets and beyond today. And let me just go ahead and do a face-to-face with Neil and Karen so we can say hello. There we go. Hi Neil and Karen, how you guys doing?
Doing
also,
great, thanks.
Stop share. I understand you folks you just came back, Neil, from China, right? From a trip in China, and I think you're going again, and you got all sorts of stuff. You're back and forth. So I know you have a lot of resources over in China. So welcome back. Ni hao.
Thank you. 谢谢你.
And go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you've been up to. What have you been up to in China?
So I've been back, as Barbara said, back and forth in China all the time. We have some new staff that we've just hired recently in the Yiwu area. So I was there interviewing some staff members, making sure they're suitable, seeing their education, their history, and of course, doing another survey because the market there is always growing. There's always new changes in Yiwu, new buildings going up with new territories, and also a lot of new regulations that are being set in the Yiwu area as well. So
we're going to assume that a lot of people on here have absolutely no idea what Yiwu is. So
I'm sorry.
Pretend like you're talking to someone who knows nothing and fill me in.
So Yiwu is, it's a southern part of the Zhejiang province of China, which is a lower part of China, and it's basically a trade zone. It's one of the main trade zones of China from north and south. Its history is a trading area where people who had cottage industries, small items, cottage businesses, small handicrafts would go there and they would trade. Basically, it was a trading zone. So people from the south who had products would come up there and trade from Hong Kong and Shenzhen, and then people from the north would come down, and it was kind of a free-for-all giant flea market of vendors.
Still is.
Literally, out in fields. People were parked out in fields, and they would trade goods from, again, could be a little wooden box to plastic items to anything, woven items, textile items. And unfortunately, it still is in many respects.
And that's totally my kind of place. I love stuff like that.
It's not for the faint of heart. For people that are serious and private labeling, it's not the place to go.
Tons of knockoffs.
A lot of knockoffs.
A lot of brands that are stolen, that are devalued and then put back into the market.
There's also a lot of liquidation. So people will buy liquidation, repackage it. It's almost like the old New York style on 42nd Street. Let's put it in a nice box,
Wild West,
and then resell it. So you really sometimes don't know what you're getting. It's cash sales. Sometimes they won't even give receipts because they don't want to be responsible for what they're selling to you. So it's an interesting place, but regarding private labeling, I don't recommend it. It's more, even within China, there's a lot of, professional companies will not go there to trade. My staff in my office in Hangzhou, anytime I recommend them even going to do inspections, they're like, well, we don't want to go to Yiwu. It's like, I don't want to.
Chinese won't even go there.
The Wild West, it sounds like, back in the day before, got civilized.
It is.
Exactly.
But, one of the things that, Neil has been doing over the last 35 years, we've been in the industry for 35 years, private labeling products for some of the largest chain stores in the world, like Walmart and Michael's, Toys R Us. Unfortunately, with what's going on with that, we could talk about that too. But what we've been doing is not just importing products and private labeling for the stores and ourselves and clients from China, but from other places around the world as well. China, Neil, you've been probably almost everywhere in China.
From north to south.
Different, so he has a really vast understanding of the different areas and where you should be sourcing for products and where you shouldn't be sourcing from products. And a lot of that those areas you see on Alibaba, some areas that pop up, you know, as we've talked about before, we don't source from Alibaba because it's too expensive. And we like to deal right directly with the factories, and you don't get that on Alibaba. But Yiwu is an interesting place, and that's where Neil had just got back from. Again, just meeting with staff and kind of looking to see what's out there. And one of the things, I think we actually haven't posted yet, but a couple of videos talking about literally the wild, wild west. And there's so many brands and new brands and what they do, getting onto sites like Amazon, finding what brands are out there and then knocking them off and selling them to other Amazon sellers.
Yeah, and that's why it's not recommended to start private labeling there, because they'll see you have a good selling product and they'll knock it off immediately, or they'll sell it right on
Karen
Amazon.
actually told me a story while you were in Yiwu about a conversation you overheard from some of these factories or these vendors. We'll get to that in a second. I want to back up a little bit. For those of you who are new to any webinars I do, I don't know if you probably haven't seen Neil and Karen like out there in the Facebook groups and marketing anything, all right? Because Neil and Karen, as opposed to a lot of the gurus, and I wouldn't call you gurus, I would call you practitioners. I mean, you were pretty hard to nail down. And when I was starting with private label, I went out and interviewed people who I could learn from. And I actually attended, that's how I discovered these guys, by digging them out and making them talk to me and do an interview. And I was so impressed with them and their over 35 years background of actually importing. You know, 35 years ago, Amazon did not exist. Would we all agree? So they are pre-Amazon importing and importing for large brands and large brick and mortar stores. Neil and Karen have a background that no Amazon seller who's teaching private label has. None. And if I'm wrong and you are one of those, you know, teachers who's been doing it for decades before Amazon, then please raise your hand and let me know and we'll have a discussion. But these are the ones that I chose to follow as my mentors. I went to their live event in Denver in January, first event of the year that I went to. It was this really intimate workshop. Absolutely, hands down, the best way I could have started my year to jumpstart my private label brands, right? My products under different brands. So I want to thank you for that. But this is why I'm interviewing them and nobody else about private label. Neil and Karen are my go-to. I don't know if you're above me on your screen or below, but I'm pointing to you on my screen. They are my go-to people. And that's why I've brought them to you folks. So you can learn, you know, the bigger picture of private labeling and importing, not just somebody who has that little bit of success with private label on Amazon, you know, and decided to create a course or do some coaching because they've launched one product on Amazon, for example, right? That's not what this is. So I wanted to give you a little backstory of who Neil and Karen really are and how I found them so that you guys could learn from the people that I learned from, and I always seek out the best people to learn from. So that being said, thank you for being here. And thank you for sharing a little bit about Yiwu. Now let's get to that private conversation that Karen shared with me that she said Neil had. She kind of overheard when he was in Yiwu last week that some of these suppliers are laughing at us Americans.
They are, unfortunately.
Go ahead and tell me why.
Yeah, it was, I actually have a couple of them which I videotaped. And some of them said, please don't show our face.
So we have to do some editing.
So we have to do some editing. But it was interesting because a lot of the companies that I spoke to, these are traders, even agents. And what they say is any American or foreigner, I'm going to say, that's selling on Amazon particularly, they'll find them the product. So, you know, of course, in Yiwu, people advertise, and even on Alibaba, we're agents, we can find you anything. And you hear all kinds of marketers saying, oh, I have an agent in Yiwu or in this part of China, and he's going to find my product. Chinese have gotten they've always been smart. They're even smarter now because they see the success of Amazon and sellers. And what they're doing is they'll find you the product. If they see that your product is selling well on Amazon, they follow it on Amazon. They have ways of getting onto Amazon.com and watching the sales. And if they see that your numbers keep going up and up and you're ordering more, they go, wow, great item. I'm going to take that exact same item. I'm going to private label myself. Why should I give you all the profit? I'm going to take some of that profit. I'm going to launch the exact same product with better packaging, add a few extra freebies, and then I'm going to sell it directly on Amazon and launch that same product. And I'm going to
even the same brand.
The same brand, because they
wow.
until they get caught, and they can list again under a different name. So they see, oh, there's 5 or 6 sellers selling this product. Now we're going to list it and make it even look better. And we'll give it an American name, or we'll give it a brand that sounds very attractive that foreigners will like. And
the thing is, even the brand itself, they copy. So, we all have trademarks, or if you don't have trademarks, you really need to make sure that your brand is trademarked. However, you're only protected in the country that you have that trademark in. So that it doesn't stop them from taking your brand and selling it elsewhere, nor does it really stop them from selling your brand even in the country that you have the trademark, unless you're on patrol and you're watching to see, all the time, where these other products are coming from.
Even if you are on patrol, Karen, they're in another country. So getting them shut down from, you can't say, we're going to sue you, or I'm going to send my lawyer after you. What's your office address? It's a cow field, a cow pasture in the middle of Iwu or whatever, right? So, so how do you mitigate that as an Amazon seller? How do you protect yourself?
You have to, well, first of all, trademarks are still important. You have to get your brand registered. You have to make sure that you are kind of patrolling. I mean, we had literally one of our clients who was kind of looking around at different things, and boom, found his product. We did some, being our private client, we did, actually while you were in Iwu, did some investigating work and found the source where it was coming from. It was coming from China. And we actually directed our team actually in Chinese, spoke with them, and
basically cease and desist in China.
And they stopped. But Amazon's also very good, as long as you protect yourself, with your trademarks, with your brand registry. It takes a while. However, going to Amazon and saying, hey, someone is using my brand, didn't give them the authority to use it, you can shut it down. But that's just Amazon. So all the other sites that doesn't have that, or you're not even aware of, unless you're there patrolling and seeing it. I mean, he happened to come across it by accident. Wow. And there was like a whole display of things. So and where did it come from? They were copycats.
Right.
Copying the same thing. So you have to just kind of really be on top of it. And understand what the law is when you get, when you're using trademarks as well.
Well, another thing that, and we didn't talk about this, but tell me I could be completely off base, but another way that, you guys all know I'm a huge bundler. I've got the Bundle Masterclass. Another way of securing your product is you start with your customer-centric research and you create a bundle that solves a problem for a customer base, and you build out that customer base, build an email list, drive your own traffic to Amazon, but you're building a solution and you're getting the products from different places, and then you're also putting a custom product in there, a printed product that you created to lock it down, and then packaging from another supplier. So you're getting the pieces from different suppliers. It makes it harder, maybe not impossible, but harder for, for someone to knock off the entire bundle. It would be more work for them, so they probably want to go after the low-hanging fruit. The harder you make it through bundling, I would think, maybe secures you a little bit better. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm right or not, but.
No, that's good. It's good advice. Anything you can do to deter someone from copying is the way to go. And you can tell sometimes, we've had our products knocked off and, we'll go and buy them, and just to kind of see, and they're totally different. They look different. And then, it's the brand and building a brand. And I know someone had asked a question earlier, and I know we'll get to questions, but it's building that brand, and you want to be able to protect that brand, because usually, if someone's going to knock something off, there is probably something slightly different about it, and you don't want your brand being identified with that particular knockoff.
And somebody did ask a difference between a brand and an appeal product, because I mentioned it at the beginning. A brand is like L'Oreal, and then underneath that brand there are different products, eye cream and skin cream and hand cream and night cream and whatever, right? So that's the difference, building a brand and then products underneath that brand that are all kind of related to what you want that brand to be. Does that make sense? I'm sure you guys can say it much more eloquently than I, but that's my take on brand building. and products. And, you know, I'll usually, because I'm still new to private labeling, especially compared to you folks, so I'll probably dumb down anything that you say. I'll be translating into Barbara speak because I am kind of new to this. So hopefully I can bridge that gap. If there's any terminology that you guys don't understand, I'll tell you my take on it, and then you'll correct me if I'm wrong.
The translation.
Okay, so let's talk about, so thank you for sharing about your trip. And if you guys have not been watching the news, you might be living under a rock. I don't follow Twitter, but I do watch the news or listen to the news. And there is some political stuff going on that could affect importing from China. A potential trade war. Don't know how all this is going to play out, but I'd love to hear your take. And this was the question that I didn't tell you I was going to ask, because this has sort of kind of happened in the past few days, right? How do you think a potential trade war and restrictions and tariffs and import restrictions are going to affect private label sellers, Amazon private label sellers? And how can we mitigate any of that effect?
Mm-hmm. So, you know, as an, I'll start first and then you can jump in. As an Amazon seller or an online seller, right? I mean, when we private label products, we don't private label just for Amazon. In fact, Amazon is really a small area where we actually display our products. We're still really big in retail and we like to diversify, because one day Amazon says they're closing. I don't want all my eggs on Amazon, right? So, so as an Amazon seller, because you used Amazon, you have to protect yourself and be prepared for anything, right? Amazon can close down and you can be left with nothing. And with all of the stuff that's going on with the news and you know, bringing in additional tariff codes, or higher tariff codes, and I'm not sure, should we talk first maybe what a tariff code is? Let's talk, why don't you?
Yeah, that'd be great, because you know what? This is one of those things that pretty much no other people who are teaching or coaching private labeling are talking about. You know, what is the actual cost of getting that product into Amazon? And there are big pieces that these coaches aren't talking about, but you guys train. So yes, please share about tariff codes, because that's one of those things.
So when you're bringing a product in from another country, there's certain requirements and regulations that you have to go through. And I think, Barbara, you're right. A lot of people who are teaching private labeling are people who are new to the game. They got a product on Alibaba. Alibaba person sent it to them and they're putting it on Amazon and they're good to go. Well, it doesn't actually really work like that. Maybe they got away with it and it worked maybe a couple of times, but that's actually not the law, and not a lot of what's going on is being hidden. So, and we're not telling you this and what we're going to share with you to scare you, because it's really important to know this. If you're planning to do any type of trade or any type of business with products, you need to understand the products. You need to understand where they're coming from and how they got to you. That's just business. So we'll share that. We're going to share that with you. So tariff codes, if you want to talk about when you're importing a product, you're getting a product, say from China, we'll use China as an example, and you're bringing it into the United States, you are charged a tax.
Mm-hmm. Basically, it's a tax. It's the government implemented it many years ago to make it kind of the scale is balanced. It's fair trade. So if there's a lot of furniture manufacturing going on in the US, which did for many, many years, to balance that out, because we've lost a lot of that, they've implemented a tax or a tariff code that relates to every type of commodity you can think of. And there's, you know,
thousands and thousands.
Yeah, the US Customs has a book about yay thick, thousands of pages, and within each commodity it's broken down. So it could be a jar. It's a glass jar. It's a glass jar that only holds 20 mils or 2 ounces. And it breaks it down, and they applied a tariff code, which is a tax, a fee on that item. With some countries, of course, they have free trade agreements, which means that there's no tax on those items. There's still some tax on the big commodities. With Canada, it's free trade, but there's some items they say we're still going to tax, but that doesn't hit the seller. That's for the big corporations. So again, they've set up a plan where there's fair trade involved and there's a taxable amount on those items. And the U.S. government doesn't hide it. If you're going to be importing and setting up a private label company, you want to make sure that you have a customs broker and you work with someone who's familiar with that, so they can tell you what those are. But you can always go on to the .gov sites and see what the tax or the tariff code will relate to the amount you're going to be charged.
And just going back to, Barbara, what you had said, there's a lot of people out there not teaching this. And the reason I think they're not teaching this is they just don't know. And what you don't know, you don't know. And if you haven't been dealing with products for a long time or understanding brands and having them come from different parts of the world, then you just don't know. And Alibaba doesn't count. Like bringing products in from Alibaba just doesn't count. And one of the things that we have seen, which a lot of people need to be careful, is a lot of people on Alibaba, a lot of the buyers like us or other teachers going and teaching Alibaba and then having Alibaba be responsible for filling out the tariff stuff and deciding what tariff code goes on a product, because every product that came into the country has been taxed. If someone in China is determining that, by the time it gets here, there's problems. There's going to be an issue if it's not the right one.
Well, what could happen? What could happen? Let's say a container hits port and it's got the wrong tariff code on it. Like, what happens to your shipment?
So right away, the government or U.S. Customs holds that shipment until they have the proper paperwork. So right away, you get fined. And for every day they have to store that without someone doing an inspection on it. So they've actually done, it could be just an x-ray, and they see the commodity doesn't match the paperwork. So right away, it's sent to a different site where you start storage fees immediately. You have to get that paperwork. If that company in China cannot supply that paperwork and you physically can't fly to China, get all the paperwork done, come back here, again, U.S. Customs sets a fine. You have a certain amount of time to get that fine relinquished. And usually within that time, you actually have to hire an attorney, a U.S. Customs attorney, to help you fight that, to make sure, because the fine is every day and it can be tens of thousands of dollars. If you can't show that information in the proper amount of time, they liquidate. They basically destroy your product, or you have to ship that container back to China because they don't want it in the country.
And we've seen it happen. I mean, we've had people even, unfortunately from other teachings that, can I say
come
that?
to us and say, what do I do?
That has happened to. And we are
cables.
Sitting with our team, because one of the things we do with our students is we share with them, especially at our live event, which I know we'll talk about, is our team. We try to make this, we've done this long enough to know where your position in the process should be and where your position in the process should not be. It should be with those people that need to know what to do. So our team, for example, our importing team, looks after that. I don't deal with that stuff. We don't deal with that.
I love that you brought your freight forwarder in and your the customs broker in to do their presentations during your live event. It was like pulling back the curtain for me and seeing how the wizard works his stuff, because I had absolutely no clue. So here's one thing I was just thinking when you were talking, Neil. So what if the tariff code that is on the paperwork, they determine it's not the right tariff code and they change it? Your price, if that tariff is, set at 5% and then suddenly at 40%, you can end up paying a whole lot more for your products than you thought you were going to.
And you will get an invoice from U.S. Customs right away.
Oh my God!
They send you, within usually 5 days, they'll send you an invoice and saying, this is what we have determined, and you can fight it. So you have to send an appeal. Again, usually it's recommended if it's something very simple that Customs overlooked, then you just file it yourself. If you want to make sure you're going to win, you have to hire an attorney, and again, to file it for you to make sure it goes to the proper people at U.S. Customs, who look and saying, okay, it does match up. Someone made an error. It's okay. You don't owe this money. But they still are going to charge you those storage fees.
And legal fees to navigate this whole thing. And we're not trying to scare you guys away from importing at all. We're trying to give you a realistic view, because a lot of what you see out there is get rich quick online. Make $1 gazillion overnight, right? And I want to caution you, anybody who's talking to you in those global terms of, feeding to your greed and not painting the entire realistic picture to help you navigate things good, bad, and ugly, they're doing you a disservice. So please don't be, pulled in a direction, or I hate to use the word manipulated, but persuaded by people who are offering you hey, yeah, this is easy, and in 12 days or less, you will have your first product in the Amazon warehouse, right? It's completely unrealistic, but it's kind of a money grab. So
yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, because we see that a lot too. And the thing is, private labeling is a very lucrative business. We wouldn't be doing it for the last 3 decades if it wasn't, right? Yeah. The thing is, it's an easy process if you understand and know the process, and you
have the right team.
Right, and you have the right team in place.
Yeah. I don't want to be looking through tariff books. I mean, just that presentation from that young lady during the event in January, where she was showing all the codes. I'm like,
yeah, that was the whole point. To show you how overwhelming that is.
Yeah,
so you can take it away from you, and not so you don't have to worry about it. But no, it's true. I mean, and that's the thing, and that's one thing with us too. And we're not marketers, right? We're not marketers, and
that's why I had to remind you. But I'm glad I did.
We're in the trenches. Yeah. So just sharing, the information that's in the trenches. But getting back to your question, now you understand tariff codes. It's a tax. Every product has had a tariff code attached to it.
Well, it's not just tariff codes, but it's also what was that? I was looking at a wood product. These little puzzle thingies, and a friend of mine said, be sure you know about the Lacey Act. That's about as far as I got. So there are these other things outside of tariffs that you have to be aware of with different materials, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So materials, as far as fabric,
certifications, compliance certificates, even FDA, it's something U.S. Customs can question. They say, do you have FDA for this hand cream or for this food product? You have to supply that before it comes in. And even in China, the government is cracking down to make sure that companies that are exporting large volumes of products in that category, that they're compliant on the China side before it comes here, because they know there could be problems. So in some respects, China wants to help. But like Karen said, you have to have the knowledge.
You need the process. You need to know how to use and understand that process and the right team. But again, getting back to your question, how is this, you hear a lot in the news about tariff codes. All of a sudden, the word tariff code is now an everyday subject, right? A lot of people didn't know what that was. And it's just, like I said, a tax on a product. So how is that going to affect us as online sellers of products, right? That's the big question. How is it going to affect us here in the US, on Amazon in particular? When we're importing products, a lot of people are importing products from China, and China seems to be the kind of target here of with regards to tariff codes. I have my own personal opinion, which I will share with you in a bit, but I'm going to have Neil start that off, and then I will jump in, and because I know we have a little bit of similarities but differences.
That's why I like talking to you guys, because I could ask Karen one thing and she's very set. She knows exactly, this is it. And then I ask Neil, and he's like, well, I have another take on that. So they're a really good team. Like, I like that they don't agree on some things, because I get different perspectives, and it's all valid. So thank you for that. Go ahead, Karen.
So you go ahead, you tell yours, and then I'll.
So I look at it on the global aspect of what's going to happen. The president wants to, make America great again and make it a positive working generation for all companies. So what is it going to affect? It's going to affect the giant corporations who are bringing in huge commodities. It's going to affect the car industry. Of course, cars being sold to China because they want to put sanctions on and tariffs, products being exported into China, stainless steel, lumber, aluminum extrusions, bulk plastic. When I say bulk plastic, I mean bins like 1,000 kilo, 2,000 pound container bins of ABS are all raw materials. So raw materials that are being exported or being imported in huge, I'm talking ship lines filled with it. That's going to be affected because the government wants to make sure, and the president wants to make sure, that we're being taken care of on our side. China's not dumping products in. Now, things like T-shirts. So is it going to affect Hanes? Well, Hanes does have factories overseas. So they're going to say, okay, we'll make sure that we're producing a fair amount in the US and we'll still be importing. So they're going to tax our t-shirts a little bit higher, but it's still not going to affect the sale to the big retailers, because the people that they want to make sure are protected are the big retailers, the Walmarts, the Targets, the Home Depots, the Lowe's. Those are the people they want to protect, and the big manufacturers that are being represented here. Nike is made in China. Nike's an American company, but their shoes are made in China. Apple's all made in China. So again, those big, if you started walking in an Apple store and now a computer was $5,000, you're going to say, whoa, maybe I'll look at a Dell or an HP that's still made in China. So it's not going to happen overnight. It'll take years for really anything to really trickle down where you're going to see it, because Walmart's not going to stand back and saying, hey, we got to raise our prices triple. Nobody's going to shop there.
Yep.
So I think it sounds good right now. The president wants to say, let's make America great. Let's bring as much manufacturing. It's limited. We still have a labor force, but a labor force that can't compete with outside countries.
And even just trying to bring it back. I mean, even to bring it back, the technology and that we even have here is just, it doesn't seem, it's not the same. But I just want to bring up what Neil had talked about, because that's kind of my feeling too. Even if, and we have seen this in products that have, and we're going to kind of get a little complicated maybe a little here.
That's all right, go ahead.
A little bit about anti-dumping, where some products that people are still bringing in through China into the US, some products are restricted and they add an extra tariff code already, which we call anti-dumping. It's considered an anti-dumping product. Doesn't mean you can't bring it into the country. It just means that the playing game for this particular product has been leveled out, and the tariff codes for that are so high. Like some have, you've seen what, over 100%?
300, up to 300%.
Yeah, give us an example of a type of product that would have anti-dumping tariffs on them.
Furniture, pencils, writing pencils.
Really?
Yep.
But people still bring them in, and they pay that 300%. Why? It's still less expensive. So think about it. If something's being manufactured here in the US and it's costing $5, but in China it's costing less than $1, even with that extra amount of tariff code or tax that you're paying, it's still less expensive.
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's kind of my feel on it. So the thing is, there does need to be some type of regulation. So I'm not 100% opposed to what's going on. I'm really not. Because what's happening now, and I'm sure a lot of you, if you are selling on Amazon right now or online, is you get a lot of Chinese companies coming over and selling and taking your business. This is going to really help eliminate that personally, because it's going to be much more difficult for them, and their tax is they're going to be taxed as well, right? So that's going to be harder for them to start coming and importing.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
So I think I'm actually not so against it. I think that there's some bonuses and some benefits for us as sellers with the restrictions.
But you said that, it won't come out in the wash for quite some time.
No, and they're talking big, right? They're not talking you're bringing in little things.
Right.
And most, I think, people who are starting and are online sellers aren't bringing in quantities like Walmart and Michael's and stuff too. So it's not going to, you're not going to feel the effect like some of those big companies, especially the car industry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They want to make sure that if they're going to make more electric cars, that they can do it here rather than having the cheap batteries made in China. They want to bring all that capabilities and manufacturing process done here. And I have no problem with that.
However, I have another twist.
Always something.
I love you guys. I really do.
However, what we have seen and talking, we're very well connected with different parts of the world because we've been in the industry for a long time and with products. What we have seen is a lot of Chinese companies moving out of China and doing their production elsewhere and then importing it.
Really? And then they import it from that country to that's interesting. So that, great segue. Thank you. My next question is, where else should we be looking to source from? China's not the only game in town.
Yeah, so Alibaba's not the only website. It's not the only place to be looking for products. China's not the only place. It's just China is the hub for creating products and at the prices that we're all familiar with.
And they kind of have their systems down. So, you know, the shipping, everything, it's kind of organized and coordinated because they've been doing it for so long.
However, there are many wonderful places outside of China as well. We go to the Canton Fair, which we're headed there actually in 2 weeks.
Yay!
Which is awesome. We take a group of students with us and we teach international business. We go right into the Canton Fair with our team. Everyone is paired individually with a team member and you get your work done. You find products, you find suppliers, and you go. You build your brand. The great thing is, a lot of people from different areas of the world come to the Canton Fair.
Yes.
So going to a large trade fair, in particular, the Canton Fair, is a great place to get to know some suppliers. There's a bunch of other online sites that we have looked at. There's other trade fairs around the world to go visiting and look for products there. If you can't get into on a plane and to the location, there's tons of online places besides Alibaba that you can find. The thing is, when you're shopping online, just keep in mind it's way more expensive. I know you look at these prices at Alibaba, but I mean, it's more expensive than going to, say, the Canton Fair and meeting with a factory or supplier right there. Just more. Same thing with some, made in India or made in some, some of these other online sites. It's still more expensive than meeting them directly.
Yes, that being said, and I'm going to kind of look at all of the numbers here, so it might be a little bit contrary to what you just said, Karen, but so let's say I did Canton Fair Phase 2 last year, and HKTDC trade shows. I did 6 trade shows in 12 days in Hong Kong and Canton, and right next door to Canton Fair, that building there. And, my cost for doing that trip was close to $7,000, right? With hotel, because I stayed like right there at the Canton. So the hotel, I could walk right over. So I paid more for, and I flew business class. So I might've been able to do it for cheaper, but I wanted a good experience my first time there and to make it the most convenient. Now, that being said, I'm going to have to take the cost of going there and divide it by like all the orders I placed, et cetera, et cetera. So the true cost of it might be cheaper going to Canton and placing that order. But you have to make sure that if you're going to a fair in a foreign country and incurring that kind of travel cost, that you're sourcing enough to make it make sense for that discounted price you're getting. So if you're only starting with, this is just my opinion again, you guys are the experts, but my take is if you're just building out your first private label product and you've got $1,000 to invest, and maybe you're paying more for that product by going to Alibaba or Global Source or whatever, doing it online as opposed to physically going there, then it might make sense in your case when getting started, not to start at Canton Fair, but get your feet wet and pay a little bit more using these online resources. Would you agree or disagree?
So there's some truth to that. Definitely. We understand not everyone can pick up and go to China and go to
and what about a single mom? She's got 3 kids, she's building her business, she wants to get started in private label, just as an example, or somebody is working a 9-to-5 job still, but building their private label business on Amazon. So I can see there's a caveat. I don't feel comfortable with blanket statements. You must do this. I always think there's always a little wiggle room for, and in certain circumstances, this actually might be a better option. So I just wanted to give that kind of contrary opinion and let you guys know you don't have to go to Canton if to get started. It was a great experience, and I'm looking forward to going back to China. And I'll do it in a much more targeted way so I can maximize the investment value of that trip. That's what I was trying to say. Okay.
No, I absolutely agree. First of all, it's not for everyone. But at some point, it is a great experience, and you really should go because you do get the fastest results. It's really for people who want fast. So if you want to see the fastest results in 7 days, I mean, you find your products, you find your suppliers, you understand the process, you know exactly what you need to do, and you're ready to go. Fastest way to do it, really is. But it's not for everyone. So we always encourage to go through the process. You need to learn the process, and that is why we do do our live events. We do it.
Yeah, I love the blueprint that you teach. It's and I love that it's on that big piece of paper I can stick on the wall and kind of remind myself where I'm at. I want to come back real quick to that question with Neil. Neil, you had told me, I didn't look at my notes before doing this from your live event, but I'd written down the answer to this question. Maybe you can answer it on video for us. You told me there are different countries and places in the world to get different types of things. I think Thailand was textiles. It's the only one I can remember. But you named a few of them. Can you share some of those with us?
Sure. India is very popular for also handmade products. So a lot of textiles from India. India is very good at finished metal products. A lot of the display products you see in furniture stores for displaying almost like an easel for photographs. Photo frames, very, very big commodity out of India. Books, journals, beautifully finished leather products out of India, bags out of India, even nice, I'm going to say nicely finished, fine-tuned knapsacks out of leather out of India. Even a lot of the European countries are getting those bags made out of India because, again, the cost of labor. So instead of having done in Italy or in the UK, those companies in Europe are having them done in India, and then they bring them back, they sew a patch on, they add maybe some bling to it, but that quality of craftsmanship is very, very good in India.
Different parts of China even have different.
Sure, northern China and southern China, between paper products, or same thing with journals that are being done. The northern part is a little better than the southern part because it's too hot down south. So again, there's lots of countries, even Europe, still there's a lot of manufacturing done in Europe, and people disregard, they think it's going to be way too expensive. But if some of those raw materials are being made there.
And Mexico is, would that be ceramics and leather?
Ceramics, leather products, yes. Even some plastics. They produce a lot of inexpensive plastic products in Mexico that people look at.
Now, and even you mentioned about China. I mean, you don't have to go to China. You can do a lot of this online. A lot of them have sites where you're able to, you got to do a little bit of research, but there's ways of getting in touch with suppliers that can help you within those countries find, products, or they show their products. So again, you don't have to be going to China.
Now, and I saw an article, I put it up on my Facebook group, the Deal Diva Facebook group, and it was just a couple of weeks ago. It was on the news, like PBS or something, and there's a consortium of Chinese companies that are actually building out in Africa. It was some country in northern Africa, I think. They just took this big swath of land and there's nothing around, and they're building out these manufacturing meccas in the middle of nowhere in African countries.
Because they can buy it at pennies.
I don't remember what it was, but right.
Yeah, Namibia is another place in Africa. Again, North Africa, a lot of the Chinese are moving into. Also, there's a huge labor force that's even much lower than China, and they're there to work. They don't have work, so we're going to build them basically warehouse facilities where they can work in and finish products.
Yeah, and it would, I don't know if they're doing this part of it, but it would make sense, kind of like the old coal mining towns, right? That the companies would build these living environments around the factories, and basically, they would just, their workforce would live right there. They would control, and they would control that workforce. So I can kind of see that happening too. It might have been Namibia, but
I mean, at our factories too, we do a factory tour when we're in China with our group, and everyone lives.
We have a dormitory.
In the dormitory around the factory.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's awesome. That's fabulous. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. All right. So let's see your approach to, let's talk about what makes you different and your approach to teaching, importing, and private labeling. Like, what is your approach? What's your take on this?
So we're all about longevity. That's why we've been in it for so long. We're not about find a product, put your brand on it, make $1 million in an hour. Doesn't work.
Find a spatula that 83,000 other sellers are selling and change the color and print your name on it.
Yeah, you're good to go. No, we're all about building a sustainable business that you can grow in, sell, whatever you want to do with it. It's not just about one product. Now, I know we have a lot of people on the line that do arbitrage, And, you know, that's kind of years ago where you started, right? Was through arbitrage. But the thing with arbitrage is you don't have the control. And so what we, in our teaching, we want you to have control of your business, control of the products, control of the brand. And we're all about building a business and brand using products that you private label. And that's,
okay, I'm going to pause you there to fill in the why of this, folks. So here's why I don't private label haphazard products. And I've chosen to build brands under which I'm bringing products to market, okay? Because I can sell a company that is a brand. So if I have the exit strategy of, okay, I want to build a brand of these types of products so that I can eventually sell it to a larger corporation that's going to take it into their fold, right? But if I just say, I've got a spatula, I have a pen, I have a glass, and I sell microphones, I don't have a cohesive brand. Who would buy that company? So in building a brand, you're building something bigger that doesn't only give you cash flow, but it gives you the ability to sell that entire company, that brand. That's my take on it, and why I've chosen to brand build as opposed to just haphazardly private labeling stuff.
Exactly. And it also opens up other opportunities, getting into retail, licensing. There's so many other opportunities. And you know, a lot of people also think, you know, I'm starting a business and what should I think of as a product in my brand? And, you know, one of the things that we do differently than anyone else is we don't go on sites like Jungle Scout, because a lot of it is they're algorithms that were prefabricated and they're not real numbers. They're not exact numbers. They're not, in fact, even close. So it's you know, the numbers that Jungle Scout and some other sites get their information from is public knowledge. And then you just make your own kind of assumption of what those numbers should look like. And there's so many things that can skew those numbers, so you're not getting real results. So we don't focus so much on like, oh my God, that spatula, according to Jungle Scout, says this, this, and this, I'm bringing them in. Nothing like that. We go based on what it is that you are going to be able to sell. And a lot of it comes from here, right? We work a lot with service providers and coaches, not just people who are starting, you know, just want to start a business. Yes, we work with the entrepreneurs too, but there's something in us, all of us, that we're passionate about, that something that we want to make a difference in the world or in people's lives. Those things are what trigger the idea and the product. For example, that spatula, say I was, you know, I'm an entrepreneur wanting to start. I went online and found that spatula was the product that is the hottest product, I should be selling it. But yet this coach, who happens to be a chef, took that spatula and decided to do it too, because that's what she was just passionate about. And we went side by side with this product. Who do you think would have more sales?
The chef, the one who's got the, yeah. Well, and the other thing,
we make ourselves different. It's about long-term. It's not about the fast buck. It's about building a brand, building a business. And if you're behind it and your passion and your strength is behind it, I mean, I always talk about, Barbara, I talked about the poop. Right? We have big St. Bernards that when they go to the bathroom, it is massive. It's a 2-bagger. And Neil will be carrying the bags. And I'm like, I could sell that. I am so passionate about that poop.
Okay.
But like, I'm carrying it.
Okay, so my take on this, so you guys all know in the Bundle Masterclass, I talk about customer-centric approach to product creation. And this doesn't just mean bundles. This means products. Like if you don't understand your customer first, if you're product centric and you're saying, woohoo, I'm going to private label a spatula, and you haven't considered who's going to buy that spatula or why or what else they would buy, then the likelihood of you selling that spatula, if it's an overcrowded market, is pretty much next to nothing. But if you said, okay, how about, so my mom was an amputee and she was in a wheelchair and she was short to begin with. Karen, you're like 5 foot nothing. So you were the size of my mom, but it's adorable, right? So, but she was real small. So to get to the kitchen for her and to, her knees would bump up against the cabinet and to have to reach up. And so what if you created a set of kitchen tools for people in wheelchairs that were specifically curved to make it easy for them to dip into something on the stove, to get to the dishes in the sink, right? So now we're not talking spatulas. We're talking about a solution to a problem for a specific niche market, and then you put together your products. Do you guys see how that's backwards than a lot of people are teaching? Just scan Amazon and boom, find a product. And if you don't, and that's all great and valid, as long as you add the piece to understanding, asking these questions. Why would somebody buy this? Who would buy this? And what else would they buy? And really brainstorming out niche markets that product solves a problem for or feeds a passion for. Sorry to get off a little bit, but this does apply. It's not about just private labeling some product. It's about bringing something to market that solves a problem or feeds a passion in a unique way. Okay, that's my little soapbox lecture.
And that's 100% true. I mean, it comes from here. If you don't have it here, you can't sell it. And most likely, the people that you surround yourself, they have those same needs that you have and would buy your product, right? So I don't know if anyone is familiar with who we are at the Private Label University, but we did a live summit. We went live for 4 months and we walked through an entire process from scratch building a product. And it was based on a passion. I knew nothing about the industry, but it was based on a passion of Neil and I, our big, huge dogs. And we created a brand and a product with over 2,000 people online who helped us walk through the whole process so they can see what we do to create a product from scratch and launch it. And I mean, it came from, I knew nothing about the pet industry. I knew nothing really about anything with this particular product. I think I shared at our live event some of the drawings from scratch. I mean, it looked like a dinosaur when I was drawing this thing.
It's pretty cute. It's like a stick figure dog. It
was like ridiculous. And I'm trying to explain this to someone. I mean, I did not have experience in that category, but the passion was there. And we brought it to life. It does well. And we're in the process of actually getting into the retail stores now. But
that's what I liked about what you did, is that you walked through this process from beginning to end. What does this whole process look like? But then you documented it. And that's what I went to, the Private Label Blueprint in January, that long weekend. That was basically, you walked me through what you had learned so I could apply it to my business. So I know you guys have an offer for 2 events you have coming up, and I would very much like you to share that information with my followers here. You guys, I have been there, done that. I don't offer anything or bring anybody onto an interview and promote their anything unless I've been there, done that, and I know what they have to offer you. And I think that they've illustrated during this webinar that they really know their stuff, and they've got over 3 decades, not lying, 36 years of experience importing.
And not together.
Yeah, no, just, yeah. So 36 solid years.
The 36, because
they look really good for their ages. I'm just saying.
I'm much younger. Yours is only 18 in the industry.
All right, okay. So anyway, go ahead and talk to us about what you've got coming up. You've got 2 live events coming up. Tell us what's going on with that.
Mm-hmm. So we do what we call the Private Label Blueprint, which is an opportunity to be able to work with Neil and I live. And what we do, it's a 3-day process, a 3-day program where you come live, very small structured group, where we walk you through the Private Label Blueprint so that you leave with your own Private Label Blueprint for your business. And we go beyond that. Because not only do we walk you through the process, we get you started. We implement with you. So we literally hold your hand. We're sitting with you at the table. We're going through things. We're implementing. I'm giving you templates. And
it's true. There's like a dozen of us around, and these are really small, intimate workshops. There's a big conference table, and there's a dozen of us all with our laptops open, and they walk around. And Neil, it's like being laughed. Neil, can you come help me? Can you tell me when? Right? So it is absolutely a hands-on workshop, which I needed because it helps keep me focused on just learning private label for that amount of time. It was like this hyper focus for 4 days. It was amazing. So sorry to interrupt, but I want to tell them my experience as an attendee.
No, and it's good, and that's important. So, because what I find is, and I'm sure there's many of you out there, I know I'm not alone, is I buy a ton of online programs. I do. We even have our own online program that we teach. And then what happens is you never get through it. Well, at least I never get through it. You never get through it. And then you have a lot of questions, and then it sits there. And that makes me crazy. Makes me crazy. So what we were asked if we would do a live event and walk through the entire process. So that's exactly what we did. We created this live event. We walk through, we build the blueprint with you. You get access to us. We implement live. And then what we do, should we tell them the scary part?
Is this what you do before the event or after the event?
No, we're going to talk about that after. So the best part of the whole event, I mean, this is the best part. We talked about importing, and it did sound a little scary, didn't it? Right? We talked about tariff codes and what could happen if you didn't have the right tariff code and paperwork, and if you don't have the right customs broker or the right freight forwarder, and the pricing's all different if you don't have good pricing. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And the whole idea is to scare you, because it is scary. It is scary. So what we do at our live event is we take that scary part out so that you get to just focus on what you're supposed to be focusing on, building your brand and building your business. Yep. So we share with you at the live event, our team, our importing team, so that you have access, even when you leave, to use the team. Use the team. I'm not charging you anything extra for that. It's all part of it. You get to use our team. You get to meet our customs brokers, our freight forwarders, all the team that we use, so you have access to them. That itself is worth itself in gold.
Well, you said that was the best part. And for me, it was tough to, choose a best part. And I think it might differ for everyone. For me, it was helpful to have a meeting in the beginning before I ever came to the event. And I don't know anybody else who does that. You include like this pre-event meeting. You have to make an appointment after you register, and they start the coaching before you ever go to the live workshop. And then the post-event coaching.
Right. So
nobody else does that.
Right. So you need that one-on-one, right? You're coming to this event, you need that one-on-one. And we're really big on one-on-one because we want to get to know you. We want to get to know your business. We want to make sure you're picking products that you're not going to have an issue with, firstly, right? You're picking a brand that you're not going to have an issue with. There's so many other things. We share with you our lawyer that does all our trademarking and all our private labeling stuff. You get access to her. We do a webinar with her. And we get you ready for the event so that when you come, you can take action.
And everybody's kind of at the same, you get all dozen of us kind of at the same level. So when we arrive at the event, we hit the ground running. And it's very organized, and you have a layout and a format. So it's you teach, and then we implement and practice right away. And then you teach, and then we practice right away. And I loved when we were getting the responses back the next day from reaching out to suppliers, and we couldn't translate them from, Chinglish to
Neil can.
Yeah, and Neil would just come over, and he would read the response. He goes, now here's what they're saying when they say this, and here's what they mean when they say this, and this actually means hidden, right? So that was the most valuable part for me. Was I would stall. I'd get these responses back that I just didn't understand who I would be working with. And to have Neil translate, not literally, although he could, but translate, okay, now this is what you really need to look at. Are they this kind of company? Do they have this kind of license? Are they this? I would not have even known to ask those questions. So being taught the questions to ask was super valuable for me. So I know you've got a May event coming up, and then in Denver, Colorado. How many spots left do you have in that event?
Okay, so we keep it small. So I don't know how many people are online, but we only have 8 left.
Only have late. Okay. I'm pretty sure they're going to fill it fast once I put the replay up. And as always, I ask people I interview to give us an amazing discount. And I thank you for this. And I know you also have a Canada event. These folks are Canadians, guys, eh? Right? They're totally Torontonians, or however you call yourselves. So they're going to do a Toronto event as well. And that's coming up in August, right? So I'm going to share the screen so you guys can see the discount that I've negotiated for you. And thank you so much for doing this. You guys totally rock.
So I also want to mention what we also find, and I think it was more because of me. I'll do an event. I'm sure a lot of people have gone to a live event, and then you leave the event and you're so overwhelmed with all the information. Yeah. We do a one-on-one after the event as well to get you focused.
And that's not an upsell. Like, for another $1,000, we'll get on the phone for an hour. No, this is included. The pre-conference conference call and the post-conference coaching included in this multi-day event, where they walk you through their entire blueprint on how they do this and how you can do it in your business. The value of this is off the charts. I don't even want to put it. I know that some packages are selling for, $5,000. Other people who don't have 36 plus years experience importing. They're just Amazon sellers who've had a little bit of luck with private label, and now they're teaching kind of, how to import garlic presses or whatever, how to put a spatula on Amazon. These guys are the real deal. You don't have to pay $5,000 or $8,000 for a private event. They've offered this discount to my followers for $500 off for $14.97. You've got to register through April 15th because this is they're headed to China, and they want to get this locked down and get everybody taken care of before they head off to China. So you've got through April 15th, which is just about a week away, to take advantage of this. Go to bundlemasterclass.com/PL Denver. I'm sorry about that C. That was my bad. It's PL Denver. Let me take that C off of there. And that'll get you in the Colorado event. And then also, they're doing an event in, ready? Dun, 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 dun. Is this your first event in Toronto?
Our first event. Can you believe we're Canadian? This is our first Canadian event.
First Canadian event for all you Canadians out there, because I have quite a few Canadian followers who've been asking me, when's somebody going to come up here? Now, here's the cool thing. Because they're Canadian and they've been working in importing for so long, they import into Canada as well, right? So they know the rules for how to import into Canada. Nobody else is teaching this. No one else is teaching this. So
can I throw in another present?
Yes, of course. You got to look for it. Neil to say,
sign up. If you sign up today, you sign up, Barbara's link is right there. We are also throwing in our online training program. It's 50 plus videos that's going to walk through the whole process. You're going to get that for free. It sells for just under $2,000.
Wow, that's awesome. So you get the online training program that you can take right now. Okay, when you sign up, you can get started right away. You get the coaching call before the event. You get the live event itself. Then you get the coaching call after the event. And on top of it, you could save $500 whether you go to Canada or Denver at bundlemasterclass.com/PL Canada or /PL Denver will get you. And you're not going to find these prices on any other links on your site. She created these specifically for Deal Diva followers. And wait, there's more. I'm going to throw in a bonus. You ready? I'm going to give you my secret process for finding your competitors' actual factories. Mic drop. So I know how to find if I see a garlic press up there, and I want to find out the factory that company, that seller is getting it from. I'm going to show you the process that I use to find the exact factory that they're getting that product manufactured by. That is, it'll be delivered after you attended the event. And that's free to everybody on this webinar. You get that when you register for either the Denver or the Canada event.
Woo!
Boom! I know. Woo! So let's go over to the chat and see what kind of questions we have in the chat, because I know there are quite a few over there. I want to make sure we answer some of them. So let me bring up the chat here. Dun, 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 dun.
So someone had asked about a partner, bringing a partner. And we do have a special if you for a partner. You can bring a lot of people bring their spouses. It is $997.
Somebody's asking why the Toronto class is more expensive, because they got to fly there. They got to rent. These guys are located in Denver. So when you go to Denver, they're using their office space, right? So their expenses are lower. So actually, you're saving money by going to Denver because their expenses are lower, and they're passing that savings on to you. Okay, actual events for May, actual events for May are 17th through 20th. Okay, and that's the Denver event. Let's see what else we got in the chat here. Per person example, myself and my husband. So they're going to give you a discount, and that's on those sales pages too when you enroll a business partner or a spouse. Let's see, any other questions in here that we can answer? Are you perusing the questions? Quite a few people are asking if they can bring a partner or a spouse, and yes, the link does not work. PL Denver or PL Canada. And I'm going to send out the recording and email so we can make sure those links actually work. But bundlemasterclass.com/PL Denver should get you over there. If I messed up on that, let me double check here. So www.bundlemasterclass. Can you go ahead and look in the chat, Karen, and see if there are any other questions you can answer?
If you can post the link in the chat, because then they can click it and go right there.
I can do that, and that way there's no. Go ahead and check the check out
the actual date. So May 17th to May 20th is the one in Colorado. August 4th and 5th is the one in Toronto, Canada. So when you get to the Toronto, Canada event, the page, we are just requiring right now a $100 deposit. In order for us to come out there, we need to have a minimum of 10 people signed up. And so what we do is we hold your deposit. We'll hold it till the 14th of April. And if we have enough people, then we will go through with that.
That's smart. That's really smart. Thank you for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I want to make sure, that, it's going to be an event that, people are going to be wanting in Canada.
Committed to, yeah.
Because, Canada, there's so much opportunity. Even Canada, Amazon, and even being in Canada, being able to be on Amazon.com. And again, remember, our focus when you're private labeling is building a business. It's not about Amazon, right? It's about you and a business and where your products can be and for people to reach them. So it could be into retail. It could be different online sites, Amazon. There's different places where you can be. So our focus isn't just Amazon. However, a lot of, what we are teaching is more of, the product development, the business development, and then, the areas of where to put your products.
Hey, a lot of people are asking what the deadline for the Canada event is.
So it's the 14th. I need commitment. April 14th. Yeah.
Oh, really? Because it's an August event.
It is, but it's just the deposit.
No, Denver.
No. It's just the deposit. So it's your deposit of $100. You're going to commit that, yes, you don't have to pay everything, but you're committing. And then I know that, the event is going to be going on.
Okay,
you'll get an email on around the 14th saying, hey, you know what, you've been signed up. We have enough people. It's a go. This is, what you need to do.
Now, here's the thing. What she's saying, though, we'll have the event if there's only 10, if we can get 10 people, but this event's going to fill up, folks. It's not if they're going to get 10 people. And this is, have you marketed this at all, the Canada event?
I have done nothing with the Canada event. You were the first one. Okay. That's why the price is what it is. The price will be higher.
So you have to, if you are in Canada and you want to do this Canada event, you've got to lock this down, get your deposit in like immediately, because once she opens this up and starts marketing it, she's only got, a minimum of 10, 12, maybe 12 spots total, right? This will fill up. I'm sure you're saying, well, we don't know. We haven't done a Canada event before, but there's a huge market in Canada for people wanting to understand importing and private label, both to the U.S. and Canada. So I have no doubt that you're going to fill that event up. So go ahead and go over to PL Denver or PL Canada. I put the links inside of the chat and get your deposit in. And Ariel asked, do we need to pay in total for Denver event, or can we start with a deposit?
We encourage to do payment in full, just because there is it's not refundable. So if we did a deposit, you would, and you changed your mind, you would be, it's not refundable. Okay. So and the May event is coming up shortly. So we need to prepare, and I can't hold it. It sells out. It always sells out.
Oh, and the catering
here.
Yeah. And by prepare,
so I can't hold it.
Yeah. They have to order the catering. They have to organize for their team members to come in to present. So, we're like a month out from the Denver event. I can't believe it's just a month out. So go ahead and grab your seat. There's only 8 seats left in that Denver event, and I'm pretty sure it's going to sell out fast once it goes public.
Yeah, and will there be another one in Denver this year? So right now, I don't know. We have the Toronto one planned, and then this one in May planned right now. We're back and forth a lot to, we're off to the Canton Fair with a bunch of students, and we're back and forth that it's, we try to book in as many as we can, but so far we've been able to do 2 in a year. So
yeah, and you're right on the tails of your China trip too. So
yeah, right on the tails. Yeah.
Hey, Janice asks, so the pre-conference call, the conference call, she's asked if you look at our proposed product and tell us if you think it's viable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm. And yes, spouse is $997 both events.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so guys, this just keeps getting better and better. So the price, the discounted price for the Denver event is just $14.97, and then if you bring a spouse or a business partner, that's an additional $9.97. So this is an amazing deal for $24.97. I didn't do the exact math, but for $2,500. You get 2 team members. So when you get back to your office, you can implement and have each other to remind each other and take different notes and bounce ideas off each other. So I highly recommend, if you've got a spouse or a business partner, grab 2 of those seats. Because think about it. There are online courses selling just online courses with no live event behind it, nothing, for $3,000 to $5,000 teaching private label. Where Neil and Karen, the private event plus the coaching, plus their web-based training that you get right away when you enroll in full for 2 people for $2,500 is an amazing deal to learn how to do importing and private labeling properly.
And you're getting an importing team.
And you're getting the importing team
that we use.
Yeah, they're amazing because I don't have to learn tariffs or, a custom broker, even freight forwarding, or how the heck do I get a container delivered and this and that. And I don't need to know any of that because now I have their team members, and they're not going to tell you who those team members are unless you go to live events. And I hope they don't, because I don't want those team members to get so busy that they can't do my business too.
And they won't work with you unless you come to the event.
There you go. Well, because they would be like crazy busy because they're so good at what they do. So, okay, so do you guys have any last minute questions, or do you want to answer any more questions in here? So Ariel says, please get the replay out ASAP so my partner can watch. Absolutely, Ariel, I'll take care of it.
How long will the support be available after the event? That's a great question. So you do get a one-on-one with us private. We're into the private. So you'll get a private one-on-one with us. And just so you know, we charge $8.50 an hour. So you're getting 2 of those.
$850.
Yeah, an hour.
$850, not $8.50.
No,
$8 an hour.
$8.50 an hour.
Because they work with large brands. They work with huge big box stores on developing their private label product. So can you imagine what a big box store is willing to pay these experts a lot of money in order to help them do what they're going to teach us for just $14.97?
So you're going to get that support after the event. You get that one-on-one. We also have a Facebook group where you can go in and ask questions. And the only people that answer the questions are Neil and I, right? There's other people in there that will make comments and stuff, but you're not getting like a mediator. You're getting Neil and I. And sometimes what I do is if it's something a little bit more in depth that I can't kind of type it out, I'll say, hey, let's jump on a call.
Yeah, she just jumps on a Zoom and clears everything up. Nobody does that. Nobody does that without, charging you a $30,000 coaching package on the back end. Nobody does this, guys. Janice asked if the conference is at a hotel. So the conference in Denver is in their office, but you have to stay at a local hotel, of course. But there are a lot of hotels around the Denver Tech Center that are pretty reasonably priced. And then what about I'm sure the Toronto hotel, the Toronto event is at a hotel?
Yeah, so the Toronto event will be at a hotel. So the event here, we have hotel pricing. So when you get your confirmation, it'll give you a link if you'd like to use. We have it's $99 a night at the Sheraton is what we have secured. There's a bus, a shuttle, not a bus, a shuttle that looks like a bus that will take you from there to the office, our office, and we get to see us, where our office is, what it looks like, and where we do our work. And we do the event here. And again, we keep it small. So,
hey, Badra's asking how long is the support available after the event. Badra, they have this private Facebook group just for us students as part of the event.
But I guess she's asking how long, like when.
How long is support available after the event?
Yeah.
Well, you'll have access to that Facebook group always, so you can always communicate with us.
Yep.
And we are so. I mean, Barbara, we're pretty laid back. You can
really are.
Email. You can send us an email. We know we're going to get to know you very well. We're spending 3 days together.
Right. And
we're going to know you very well. So you send us an email. If we need to jump on a quick call, we jump on a quick call. I'm not charging for that.
There's a graduation ceremony where we, have some champagne.
Okay, don't tell them everything.
I'm sorry. The food is great, by the way. I have to tell them this. They have it catered by this amazing local caterer, and I'm a foodie, so the lunches are included, by the way. The lunches come with this. This is such amazing value. I'm thrilled that I went in January. It was the best decision I could have made, and best way to start my year was with this training. So Cynthia says, I've taken another seminar, nothing close. How do I get on the email list for seminars after Canada? Cynthia, you are on my email list, so you will get emails about anything that you do. Thanks, Barbara. I'll bug you. Let's see. How long do we have support after the importing team after the event? Wendy, we just answered that. There's a private group for us students, and if you have a question, you can just reach out to Neil or Karen. Usually Karen is kind of the front point, kind of fields answers, because Neil's busy making deals happen, basically making deals happen. Okay, so you guys have the links to bundlemasterclass.com/PL Denver or PL Canada, and you get my bonus, right? You get the secret process for finding your competitors' actual factories. I'm gonna do a video and create a PDF for you guys after the event. Either of the events, you'll get it. You've got Toronto, $500 off, $19.97, August 4th and 5th. And you've got May 17th coming up in a month, guys, 5 weeks. You've got to take advantage of these deals. By April 15th, the deal's shut down. Nobody else is offering this discount. This is specifically through me. Thank you very much for this gift, Neil and Karen. Thank you so much for offering this discount to everybody who is in my tribe. So I will send this replay out to everybody shortly.
Yes, I'm going to just ask that about the replay.
Yep, I'm going to send this email out. It takes a few minutes to kind of upload things and for me to do links and post and blah, blah, blah. So give me a couple hours to make that happen. But I want to switch back over and say thank you to Neil and Karen for being here today and for taking care of us so wonderfully.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for having us. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
I know you guys are, I like bantering with you guys. I know I threw you some curveballs with some questions, but you got them all answered. And I appreciate your, just as a final note, I'll get a little gushy here. I appreciate your authenticity and your willingness to just say it as it is, and to give your opinions and that you have differing opinions to say, look, this is the reality of importing and private label and building a business. So as business owners, we get a clear picture of what to expect and not some, rosy rainbows and unicorns fantasy of what we wish it was, but the reality of it, and then offering us a solution to help us implement it in our businesses. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. And I will send this recording out to everybody shortly.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. It's been
Thanks,
our pleasure.
Guys. Bye.